Yes, guys, welcome to another Cannon Podcast Live. I am your boy, George V_AFC, and we have a new guest here. Well, not a new guest, somebody that has come on quite regularly, semi-regularly, somebody that is our 12th man on the podcast for sure. Forder, mate, how you doing?
Mate, do you know what? Everyone says about super subs. So, you had the Soul Shars, we have a Canu or a Wiltor. Well, I feel like I'm more like the Rob Holding mold. You just bring me in, try to just steady the ship. I won't go mad.
We can do a bit better than Rob Holding. You know what? I'm going to give you some more credit. At the very least, we're talking Podolski here. We're talking somebody with a little bit of output. Rob Holding gave me some worries. So for all of those wondering, yes, it is a takeover. It is a takeover. You haven't normally seen my face. I've normally been in the comments on these, but Alex and Rohan have ditched me. And they have said, essentially, you've got to carry the pod. So I've got to come up with different stuff. I've got to come up with some different content here. I'm not really on this kind of train normally, but we will get it through it together. Rohan's unfortunately going to India. So anybody in the chat, I don't know if anybody's been to India before, but I've been told not to say the word benchoed. So that is one thing that I've been told not to say. I don't know what that is.
Already broken that rule.
Already. Off to a great start. And then Alex is busy. He's ran into some issues as he's come back. So it is me and Forder taking up the mantle. So I hope everybody is doing well. Yep, staging a coup is absolutely kind of the case that's happening right now. But so mate, first off, how are you doing post that win? We should probably get into it. I don't know, for old heads like us, I feel as though United is the team. I understand that in the moment there might be some rivals. I understand that in the moment there might be different teams that we may say, okay, Liverpool are somebody that are kind of in a title challenge. We must look at them. Of course, Spurs. I understand the geographical rivalry. I don't get it as much being maybe as a foreign fan. That's something that's kind of escaped me. I've just felt like they're a team that we consistently batter. So it's more of a case of rivalry by association than real sporting rivalry. But it was United that always hit me in the feels. United was a team I genuinely hate. I don't think there's a team I've hated. Like, we're talking hatred here, other than Sir Alex Ferguson's United. There was definite hatred in there. And I don't think the Premier League has seen really a rivalry since then like it. I mean, it was really hostile. Can you maybe shed some light for some of us younger/older fans on what that was like, because we didn't like each other?
My youth was just engulfed by that rivalry. Every single day of growing up, going to school, anyone that you played football with, anyone you played football against. I had a coach that was a United fan. Personally, I went for trials at United at Carrington. So for me, it was it was a horrible experience. It was the year that they won the treble in '99. And I went up and I was surrounded by, they took us to see the trophies. So for me, inside, it was, it just tore me apart.
Yeah.
There was, the Keown and Van Nistelrooy moments, the Pizzagate. It was the constant media narrative of Man United were kind of like the darlings of the media. Alex Ferguson could almost get away with saying what he wanted. There were always dubious decisions. The unbeaten record, the 49 games, and Wayne Rooney's flop, his best diving impression. It was just everything. And I don't think, unless you live through it, there's no way you can really understand what that was like. The City-Liverpool thing, it wasn't the same. I don't think it ever had that kind of.
It was a nice rivalry. It was respectful. It never boiled over. There was a level of, okay, we're both very good competitors. I hope you do really well. But then beyond that, it was kind of a case of basically saying, well, from a United and Arsenal standpoint, we went into the game saying we want to hurt you. I mean, the whole idea of basically what happened with Patrick Vieira and Gary Neville in the tunnel is essentially this: you try clipping our players or cutting down Robert, I will hunt you down. And it's kind of a case of just, I don't know. I enjoy that. I enjoy that animosity because that's what sports all about. It was intense, it was vitriol, you could feel it. And it was visceral. There was that almost taste in the air of, okay, I don't want to be rude, but somebody's going to get hurt here. Like there
Mm.
was genuinely that true competitive spirit, and it went beyond trophies. And that's what I think it was for me, because it was really a clash of culture. And I'm trying to maybe put this into words because I don't think people really remember. I think one of the biggest issues that Arsenal have had a trouble with in terms of the narrative and the narrative police was Arsenal were always a culture club. And what I mean by that is they were a team made up of foreigners, not just in terms of manager, right? Like they were a team that was made up in terms of, I hate to be this guy, but excellent representation of diversity. Probably
Mhm.
one of the first teams that I remember, I don't want to butcher this stat, but of an all fielding an all starting 11 of African American players. It was absolutely something that a lot of people could relate to that weren't always from England. And it opened itself globally. And then it became a Sir Alex Ferguson, which epitomized culture, English culture, getting stuck in
Yeah.
that entire narrative. And yeah, I think that from that perspective, it gave it a little bit more than just football, right? Even beyond
Yeah.
rivalry, it became a little bit of, I don't know, foreign versus home. It became away versus home. It became the refs, the FA, everybody against the new kids on the block that are trying to do their best to really upset the apple cart. And, I think it gave birth to one of the best sporting rivalries I've seen in my lifetime. And so it just, I don't know, it contextualizes it for me because every time I face United, I go back there, and I
Yeah,
don't know if
I
this
do.
goes back like to anybody as well in the comments and as well as yourself. Like, what does this fixture mean to you, the fan, for a moment?
It is, I would say, alongside the Spurs game, it is the epitome of must win. You cannot go into that game, regardless of form, regardless of if it's a friendly, a preseason warm up, whatever they want to call it now. If it's a charity shield, as it used to be called, rather than the community shield,
Mm-hmm.
it was never about charity. It was never a friendly. It was a must win, and at all costs. It's the only game that I think for quite a few years at the beginning of Wenger's tenure, we won the Fair Play Award. So,
Yep.
least reds, least yellows. It was the one game where that just went way out of the window. If anyone wants to and hasn't seen, there's a great compilation of the Battle of Old Trafford where we went and almost got kicked off the field. And it's something that I look at now, and it's very interesting. I found it quite difficult personally to see Arteta greeting a Man United manager
Yeah.
and kind of having, whereas I've grown up with that kind of, I think you used the word visceral earlier, that which is just the perfect word, George, to describe how it's like an inbuilt thing of, I don't know, have you got children, George? Like
No,
I get an
no.
inbuilt thing of with my children, I would do anything for them. Against United, that I get that inbuilt nature nurture, that feeling of, I don't know, just raw energy. There's nothing like it. And then here's a little known fact about me. I used to go to the game every single season and have to watch it at Old Trafford in the United supporters end. And I had to say no in the end to free tickets, bear in mind, but I just couldn't do it any longer. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
No,
Because
no.
yeah.
And you know what? I mean, I'd love to hear about, everybody in the comments about what your kind of experience is with United. I don't know if it's
Sorry,
as
George. Just to clarify, someone's put here that I would sacrifice my children to win against United. Just so everyone knows, I'm not going to sacrifice my children to beat United.
yes, not quite that far. And so it's a case of, you know, I think when you go to school, look, half of football is talking and rivalry and bantering kind of with your rivals, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
half of football. And so from that perspective, it's kind of a case of, engaging in that a little bit. And I kind of relate to this massively in terms of, I don't know quite the classroom, but I mean, yeah, like to a certain extent, playground, wherever you might be at whatever stage in your life, it's about saying, listen, after a big game, we're going to banter you. And it was the case today. I kind of just sit there. I've got friends, and after yesterday, may have been something of a routine win to other people, but it meant more to me, if that makes sense. So for yourself, what did you make of the game? First off, lineups, and how nervous were you feeling going into the game?
I wasn't nervous. Ironically, we talk about classrooms. I'm a teacher. So I have, even now, I have children saying to me, "Oh, United are going to beat you. They're going to beat you tonight." But I was so confident. I predicted that there would be a 2-goal margin in the game. I didn't think it would be an easy game by any means. And playing it against a manager with, that new bounce, I hate that term, but it is a factor sometimes, a complete different, like an unknown quantity in terms of United playing in a new system. But the way that we can control centrally was something that, for me, I felt like we will take over at some point with this game. We will kind of punish them, unfortunately, for them anyway.
Yeah.
And I just felt confident throughout. The first half, I was a bit disappointed. I thought we came out I don't want to say negative, but just not in the manner that I wanted. And maybe that is something that was kind of communicated between Arteta and the players in terms of, don't let the occasion get to you. Don't play the occasion, play the game. But I think you mentioned it actually in the instant reaction, that it's been a while since we've put them to the sword. It's been a while since we've actually put them in their place and said, this is our ground. This is not where you come and win. And I think sometimes we get over the line, but almost in too nice of a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what? There's just a lot of respect shown, and I don't know if it's a case of respecting the history of the fixture as opposed to what we've got on hand. And I think the only reason that when you have a look at it, and I think why we saw somewhat of maybe a lethargic first half, was some of those respects. I mean, I think Ruben Amorim respects not just, Mikel respects Ruben Amorim, but not just him, but I think even Onana, in terms of in build-up, in terms of what he's able to do. And this is now 2 games running where I felt that our press wasn't out to meet them. It was absolutely a passive press out of possession, especially in the first half. Unfortunately, what I think that does is it kind of lends into this more passive nature in terms of our passing tempo. I didn't feel that we were quite as aggressive. And so that first half, I was left very frustrated. And I thought I almost felt grumblings, even from the TV. As in terms of the stadium, in which I think the fans were willing us as well to engage. This wasn't just, this is personal for a lot of people. And I think as much as top 6 clashes can really give you that feeling, I felt like at home, we've had this tendency to maybe slow down our tempo a little bit and kind of assess in the first half, which is fine to a certain extent. I think though part of me wants us to meet them. Part of me wants us to go and press and really sit there and compete from the off, put them under pressure, especially because of how poor they are at build-up and how many distances they leave between their first line, right? But what do you make of kind of the first half's, I don't know, passive, slow nature? Is this a case of, on one hand, look, we've got a mid-table club that we're facing, we got to save our legs for the weekend? Or is this more of a case of, listen, we're paying respect to a team that maybe we don't know enough about? We've seen what Ruben Amorim's about. Last year, and we faced one of the Sporting teams, and that absolutely was an issue in terms of facing their mid block. And so, are we sitting there saying, look, let's evaluate what we've got for 45 minutes, and then we can pick and choose the moments to really exploit and turn the screw? Where are you at with the first half versus second half kind of dichotomy?
I hope that it is instruction and it's an idea of like feeling the game out. The best way I kind of think about it is in terms of fighting. I don't know if you're a fight fan, MMA or boxing. You get that with fights. You get people who feel each other out and work each other. Work out the spaces, the distances, etc., etc. And I felt like that was quite evident, especially at the beginning of the second half. The way we came out in the second half showed that there is definite instruction that okay, now it's time that we start playing, more progressively. Essentially, there are far too many times in that first half where we were almost going back to the Emery, the U shape, playing it background and not kind of turning into space. I think Zinchenko was guilty so many times of slowing down the tempo. And it's something that it can be a good thing, slowing down the tempo at certain times. We've needed to do it recently. I think straight after the international break, I was in an instant reaction, and it was something that I said shows our maturity, slowing down things from corners, getting a player like Jorginho's been fantastic at it, at choosing times to speed up tempo, slow down tempo. But I just felt that first half, I think I've got the stats here. So expected goals 0.3, shots on target 0, open play shots obviously 0, possession 47% at home. And I just felt that really summed up a performance in the first half, and it was a little bit lackluster, a little bit I don't want to say lackadaisical, but lethargic maybe, and possibly that's something to do with Kivior and Calafiori, not, the change there in dynamics, Zinchenko coming into midfield, not progressing in the same kind of way as Calafiori does. But at the same time, I think we have earned the right now to, regardless of our formation in terms of players and the way that we're playing, I think we've earned the right to attack other teams from the off and not just sit back and wait and let the game play out. I think we should have enough kind of respect within ourselves and the other teams and go, actually, we can play the way we want to play. But
yeah, and you know what? Again, there is a part of this where maybe it's kind of Mikel's natural instinct to a certain degree in terms of caution before progression. And, there is a part of that. Sorry, really quickly, before we keep going, I'm sorry if my mic is, just let me know in the comments if that's been fixed. I've tried to open up and see if that helped for people. But yeah, I think it's frustrating because I think when I looked at like even the PPDA numbers, I think we had about half of our initial pressing number compared to United in general. And look, you can see it as two ways, right? Maybe it's that Mikel doesn't respect them at all and says, well, you can have the ball because I know that you're going to make a mistake and I actually don't trust how threatening you could be with the ball and with possession. That's one side to maybe take to it. Or another side is that, listen, we respect the threat of the counter, that really that's your strongest suit. And by taking that away and by allowing you possession, we don't allow the transition moments to happen. And so therefore we take away your strongest weapon in the match while simultaneously understanding we've got the defensive solidity to really sit there, protect, and kind of show that we can then create something elsewhere. And I'm caught between two minds, right? Because there's what I would like to happen and what we've seen. And that's now 2 years running where we've kind of employed that, and successfully, I might add. And what ended up turning into what was quite a professional performance. And I think that we could have been out of sight quite early because, United, for all the talk about the set pieces, and we will get into that as a section, I thought that United had good possession, but never threatening possession. And there was a part of me that was saying, okay, fine, we've sacrificed a little bit of territory, maybe. But in terms of, worry, I felt that Arsenal did a brilliant job about getting inside, compact, and in numbers quickly. So from that perspective, mate, it was brilliant to see. It was just frustrating that I felt like, okay, let's turn the screw, let's increase the tempo a little bit more. And I think that we really could have put it on them. And to be fair, I think we saw a different second half from that perspective. So what do you think, and we'll get into some individual performances, but what do you think was the biggest change in the second half? I have some ideas about what we did change, but what was your biggest takeaway from it?
For me, it just felt one, in terms of personnel, I think Declan Rice was a huge part of it. I think his performance in the second half was almost like what we've been, I don't want to say we've been waiting for Declan Rice to do that, because I think his role's been slightly different this season to last season. But it felt like he almost took control of the game and started making different decisions. Our decision making was better as well. I think Thomas Partey in that first half, his decision making wasn't great. He was going vertical quite often. And sometimes, I know, which is ironic, I've just mentioned about that U shape and passing it backwards, but Thomas Partey's decision making wasn't fantastic. And suddenly it almost felt like things clicked, and it just became the normal kind of passing patterns that we see. We also had a few more of the half-space crosses. I don't think throughout the game we kind of took the risk of putting it between the fullback and the kind of outside centre backs and trying to ask those questions of Man United. They've got quite a slow defense. They haven't got like the quickest, off the line. And we started just asking questions. We started pressing a lot more, and slightly more aggressively. And maybe, as you were saying about us two seasons of a row employing this tactic, I did think actually, seems that in the derby games, like against Tottenham, we have kind of allowed them to have more possession as well. So maybe this is something that in these high octane games, we're being told, stand off, let them have the ball, grow into the game, because the last thing you want is to be hit on the break, go 1-0 down in that first half, and then have to claw that back. And then it's not going to be a nice place, because if we're saying that we've got that kind of that inbuilt fire about this game, you can only imagine how the crowd's going to react with us kind of going down straight away. So maybe it's an idea of, us toying with the game and kind of playing it out slowly. So
It's about
yeah, that's how
controlling
I
your
felt.
emotions, isn't it? Like, I mean, when you have in these high octane, you can't be on for too long, and being on for too long
No.
can lead to mistakes, and being too complacent can lead to mistakes. You want to strike that sweet spot, don't you? So there was definitely a moment of, I think, feeling people out. It's just I have this impression that Arsenal's press is just as inevitable as their set pieces, and I have this feeling that our press out of possession makes us one of the best in the world. And it's not something that I think I've seen most of this season, if at all, especially for 90 minutes, which you can never really do, but at least to start off for a half, us on the front foot, we haven't quite employed that man-to-man press, which we did see towards the back half of last season. And one thing that I can maybe understand is, okay, there are times that we want to turn this thing on, isn't there? I mean, we saw it really from, I would say, the beginning of the season up until maybe December, and really from that Palace game onwards after Dubai, we really saw an increase in terms of that impetus off the start, didn't we? And so it could be a case of save the legs for when it matters, save the legs for when it counts, because this period is going to be very arduous, playing every 3 days. And so it could be a case of choosing your moments when to press, choosing your moments when to turn it on, while still trying to control the match, which is kind of a delicate balance, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it kind of begs the question of whether the long-term game is playing out as well in terms of running. We know we've had quite a few injuries this season. We've had players like Timber that's had to kind of almost be rushed back. Ben White's out for a long time. We've then got Zinchenko and Kivior, who probably aren't match fit or in terms of like a 90-minute game able to do that sustained running. Thomas Partey's been in and out with injury. Odegaard's just come back from injury a few weeks ago. So maybe it's a case of not just managing minutes, but managing miles. So is it an idea of, if we can get through this first half, and we're quite confident we can, without pressing, without playing kind of on the front foot, in the second half, we can then apply it then, take a win and move on to the next game. We know this fixture list is not easy. There's more games in the Champions League. This time of season, we're one of the few leagues that doesn't have a winter break. So maybe it's not just short-termism, it's that long-termism. We've seen Pep do it year after year. They pick up in the second half of the season. It played out quite well for us last season as well. I think people forget that first half of last season, we didn't kind of just go off and win game after game, playing on the front foot, playing like a gegenpress kind of game that we saw with Klopp, where they dropped off later in the season. So maybe it's even that. But for me, it's just that inbuilt thing, isn't it, against United? I just want to see us go. Just go for it. Just score some goals and put them under pressure. I want to see players like De Ligt under pressure, getting pressed high up the field. I want to see that midfield congested by our players. But nonetheless, we got the win. We're talking like we haven't got a win, but it's just not what I wanted to see. So.
Well, and that's why I think it's just worth talking about, only because I think a lot of people would have hoped for something different in approach. But then again, how is it that you can sit there and complain when you've got the result that you've ended up being very comfortable in the end? And, you know, I don't remember being threatened really like at any point in the match. And, you know, I think from ourselves, we actually wasted a couple opportunities. There were some brilliant cutbacks by Yuri and Timber to find Martin Odegaard in the box that I think, you know, struggled to really impact the game as much as we know him to be. And so there were some few open play moments that I think we really struggled. And in fact, you know, we might as well just get into it. Let's talk the set pieces, because I think from the very first couple minutes, Thomas Partey misses an open net in which Declan Rice, can we sit here and talk about this? Because our deliveries have been world-class all season. This whole debate about whether set pieces can be sustainable or not. Okay, there are two things that can contribute to this. And I've always used the analogy. We don't ask, was Thierry Henry's goal scoring sustainable? We never asked, is, you know, Heung-min Son's clinical edge, was that sustainable over the years? Mohamed Salah, was that sustainable over the years? When you have a world-class delivery met with world-class targets, Gabriel, Saliba, Calafiori, Declan Rice, even when he's not taking corners, you know, the Mikel Merino, Kai Havertz, like you're talking about a huge collection of just world-class aerial targets. And then you're talking about the deliveries. Bukayo Saka leads the league in set piece assists. So we're talking about the absolute outlier there. But I think people forgot, Declan Rice is world-class at deliveries as well. In fact, last year, it's where he garnered most of his assists from. And this game, mate, it was on a sixpence consistently. It was just world-class. And his ability, I don't think people realize the skill it takes from those dead ball situations to generate that whip to go and hit somebody like that. It's an incredible skill, a beautiful piece of scouting, by the way, to see that from Declan Rice, because it's not something, I think he took something like 50 or maybe less, maybe something like 40 career set pieces for West Ham, and he's already got like 90. Clearly he's on set piece duties. But I think it's just, I don't think we get talked about in terms of everyone's too concerned about the approach, the structure, about pushing and blocking people. Guys, it's not just that, because I think everybody does it to a certain extent. When you marry some clear thought, how often do you go front post? How often do you go back post? How often do you create blocking assignments? If you guys really want to go into the nerdy details, we have a brilliant kind of patron pod on that earlier. But I think when you marry that with the personnel that we have, you're going to consistently outperform your set pieces. It's going to be sustainable, much in the same way we don't critique a Mohamed Salah for scoring consistently, much in the same way that we don't critique a Thierry Henry, a Heung-min Son, a Marcus Rashford. They have brilliant shooting technique, means they're going to score goals that you wouldn't expect them to do it. We have some of the best aerial talents in the world. We have some of the best deliveries off set pieces in the world. That's going to be an issue.
Yeah. The thing I liken it to is the fact that, in case you just had an alarm there, that was my alarm to make sure that I've done a thumbnail. So there you go. The thing I liken it to is a direct free kick and free kick takers.
I'm gonna be right back, but you can just keep going on your point.
Yep. So when we kind of look at players like David Beckham, no one kind of questioned David Beckham's deliveries over the years. No one ever questioned when David Beckham was stepping up to take a direct free kick. The same with a Juninho or a Pirlo. And we've kind of got to the stage now where Declan Rice on one side, Bukayo Saka on the other side are being able to take these free kicks and deliver them on a sixpence every single time. So George was just talking about Thomas Partey and that first opening instance, the corner came in. And then straight after that, the Timber goal is almost a carbon copy, not just the play and how Nicholas Jover has got us to set up, running from the far post, running across, but the delivery is almost identical. So that it's not just our ability to work over things and constantly, reset, retry, train these things. We have to be able to actually deliver them as well. It's all good and well saying this is where you stand at this particular time. This is where you run. This is how we screen. We've also got to be able to deliver and then be able to score those goals. So our corners have been unbelievable, as of our free kicks. I think for this match, we were 13 corner kicks. 46% of these corner kicks generated 7 total shots, 4 big chances, and 1.1 XG, which just shows how clinical we are becoming from these corners. So almost half of these are resulting in the shots, So it's unbelievable what we're doing. And Nicholas Jover is a person that needs to take an amazing credit, because I do wonder how much time he's spending with players like Declan Rice and Gabriel and Saka after training to kind of go through this. Because if we look, when he first came, I believe we were 16th in the table for set pieces. Is George back? Can you hear me, George?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I don't know if you missed that. So I was just saying about the last game and the fact that we had 13 corner kicks against United.
Yeah.
We had 46% of those generated at least one shot. So that was 7 total shots. So 7 total shots from the corners.
And you know what I think is really impressive. Like I have this argument kind of on Twitter quite regularly, in which I sit there and I say, okay, if you're going to critique a team from scoring off set pieces, you absolutely have the exact same ability to defend those set pieces, don't you? Like there's there's equal opportunity. And I mean, when you start generating 13 corners, why isn't the story of the match? Why did United succumb to 13 corners in the match? That's an excessive amount of corners. And where does that come from? For all the people that's sitting there and saying, what's the prowess off of set pieces? I think from a certain perspective is, why don't we question why you're conceding that many?
Mm-hmm.
And, that for me becomes an issue, becomes a frustration for teams. But at the same time, if you're going to keep giving me opportunities to score, I'm still going to take them.
Did you see the post-game interview? Peter Schmeichel was there.
Oh, mate, the salt.
So I've got the quote here, if anyone missed it. So Peter Schmeichel comes up and essentially says, "You're creating one chance from open play today, but you're reliant on set plays." And just says it as purely as that. You are reliant on set plays. And I thought Mikel Arteta, that even when he can see someone who's obviously, I think what you just said, salty, and you could tell Peter Schmeichel was really annoyed and angry about it. And he just essentially turned around and said, "I don't care how we score goals, beautiful, ugly, they all count the same." To which again, Peter Schmeichel replied and said, "Somebody will work you out at some point," which I found absolutely hilarious, because it's been, a few seasons now and no one has. And he said, "If you create 13 corners, it's a big chance that you will score. We want to score from every play, but the team needs resources to do it. We scored 5 last week, 5 against Sporting in many different ways. So I'm glad we have this ability. But it's true, maybe you can't rely on this." And I just thought you couldn't have just played them down any easier and not do it in, an arrogant manner. It just shows again the difference with Mikel. Even in those situations, he's so good at talking. His communication is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And it's just, it's so, I don't know, this idea that you're going to be worked out. It's not from a lack of trying. Everybody has tried consistently, by the way, to do it. Everybody has tried to put spotlights. The refs have tried to put a rule against Arsenal for no blocking. They consistently are trying to find ways to stop it. But at the end of the day, we continuously find an innovation, because we're just one step ahead of this game model. We've always been one step ahead. And, we were talking kind of on the post-match pod about what Nicholas Jover's worth in the market today and what that ability is worth in the market. And, I just kept wanting to highlight our play leading up to the corners, because that always gets taken away from the actual corner routine to begin with. And typically, in order to create those corners, mate, you've got to have sustained pressure in the final third. You've got to have high field tilt in order to force that pressure and force those situations. So if you're going to critique the corner, then you're going to have to at some point critique the fact that Arsenal consistently camp opponents in their own third, which I thought was the whole point of football. Sorry, I seem to be missing something. Am I supposed to apologize for it? Absolutely not. So, yeah, it's incredibly salty. And you know what? I'm from an era, and you yourself, that we were told how soft we were, soft to the point in which it was breaking legs, soft to the point in which that we weren't there to compete, that we would play nice, pretty football, but could never compete and win titles until we learnt how to play dirty. Was
Yeah.
the line I constantly got told, and yet we're playing dirty. And now you want us to go back to playing nice. Just make up your minds. And at the end of the day, it comes down to I'm jealous of the way you're playing. And I'm jealous that you are getting this advantage, Arsenal. That's what it comes down to. Because I'm sitting there saying, why can't my team go and work on those things and create the same sustainability? That's where it comes from. It comes from nothing but pure jealousy. So from my perspective, is the question, are they sustainable? 1,000,000%. Is the question that we're going to continue to dominate off set pieces? Again, 1,000,000%. It's a
Mhm.
case of both structure. When you hear Declan Rice talking about analyzing where to go front post, back post, the detail that we put into these things is absolutely incredible. It's a point of difference. But I maintain the personnel. Again, name me another team in the league that has consistent world-class delivery both sides of the pitch on the level of Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka. You're going to struggle to find any that have that consistent delivery off both sides of the pitch. Then you look at the aerial targets. Again, name me a team that's more consistent in terms of heading ability in the box when you talk about Gabriel, Saliba, Calafiori, Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, Kai Havertz. The list goes on. Yuri and Timber's
Mhm.
developing quite a state, at the front post, because that's not the first time that he's done that this season. I've seen him ghost in those areas and have a brilliant knock-on heading ability. So you're having a team, and it's not just a team of giants. It's not just lumping it to the big guy. It really isn't. It is an art just as much as what you would take to construct an intricate pattern of play. And I'm tired of the very Neanderthal way of looking at it. And the reason that, by the way, everybody is lacking is because they're looking at it that way.
Yeah.
And they're only now realizing that that could be a point of difference. And you know what? I think innovators get mocked, don't they? Anyways,
Oh,
so
always.
so
Always.
yeah, from my perspective, onward and upward. Continue with the set pieces. Continue with making United legends cry, and I, for one, will be lapping up their tears consistently. I don't know about you.
And well, lest we forget where Jover came from.
Yeah,
Okay. Because if Man City valued him in the same way that we do now, then they would have done their utmost to keep hold of him. And over the seasons in the Premier League, every club that wins the Premier League always has a high percentage of goals from corners and free kicks, dead ball situations. They always do. This is not a new thing. I did see a really good stat, actually, was that if we magically took away all of Arsenal's corners, okay, but still kept corners for every other team, we would only drop one position. We would be joint third with Man City, I think, on goal difference. So it's not like we're second simply because of our set pieces. That's not the case. If you took them away, let me just double check what I've put down. So yeah, we would be third behind Chelsea on goal difference, tied for third, but ahead of Man City in goal difference. So
yeah.
they are a big component of where we are, but they are not the only component. And I do want to say, actually, George, have you seen the rumor going around about the new ruling of
I have.
corners?
It would help a certain Arsenal Football Club that seemed to be so
Mm.
dominant in terms of. Actually, you said the rule. You brought it up.
So the IGAB, which is the International Football Association Board, have been trialing a rule in the Premier League 2. Essentially, the rule is if a goalkeeper holds the ball for, I believe, 8 seconds, it results in them conceding a corner. So hopefully, for Arsenal's sake, this has brought in some keepers decide to time waste holding the ball, and we get even more corners. There we
Absolutely.
go.
Yeah, and you know what? On this, I saw this stat and I thought it was actually pretty funny too. So Martin Odegaard could misplace his next 500 passes in a row and still have a higher
Oh my.
pass accuracy than a certain Bruno, which I think says it all. Look, part of that is also about him taking riskier passes between the
Risks.
lines, but who wants to give nuance to that? You know what? This is an Arsenal podcast, so we're gonna up the boys anytime we can. So talk tactical. Talked a
Mhm.
little bit about kind of the set pieces. One thing that I did want to go to, mate, the thumbnails, we've got to address it. They are world class. I don't know what you guys think in the comments, but Forder is in charge of making all of them, and they're just consistently brilliant. And what gives you the inspiration for some of these thumbnails? Because it's so it's so niche, and they speak to a lot of people. So I think everybody wants to hear from the story and the creator of that.
I don't know. It's like it's a little kind of insight into my brain and the bizarre things that are floating around there all day. So it's like today I sent obviously the pun about Nicholas Jover. That's essentially when I'm not working, or when I'm not kind of entertained by something, I'm just constantly thinking of these things. So it pops up. So I did the current one, the butcher of Alex and Lisandro Martinez lying down. I did that over the weekend. So I text Alex saying, look, we better win. I have every confidence we will, because this is going to be the thumbnail regardless. So yeah, things like that. I know, actually, are we going to mention the Discord ratings?
We're actually gonna get into it. That was my kind of way of transitioning to it. So I've been told that this podcast keeps up ratings. So you guys are gonna have to let us know how our debutants are. We Kivior and Zinchenko in this instant, or have we done a little bit better than that? But in terms of some of the Discord, I think from last week's kind of rating. So I'll read out a couple of your Discord members. And again, a quick reminder, if you guys enjoy the content, you guys can pop down and link below to kind of join the Patreon, which has the Discord link if you guys want to see some more of these beautiful content. But from Patrick C. Walters, he said, great pod of last week. He really enjoyed some of the ratings. So personally, thumbnail, he gave you an 8.1 last week, because the previous week was just a 10 out of 10, straight fire. But Rohan, good jab at Alex on an epic rant about the nerd stuff in the beginning, but it could have been higher without the angel slander. Absolutely poor form. And Alex had a little bit higher man of the match for the cooking at the end of the stream. My God, the scrat. Did you see that that comment? I think that,
mate, I was straight out there. I photoshopped it. If anyone's not in the Discord, get in the Discord, because there's all sorts going on. Yeah, straight away I'd uploaded that. If you're not following me on Twitter, there's constant segments, okay, that I put up for the best of clips. But yeah, I couldn't help but Photoshop that. That was on straight on. Best call I've ever seen.
Look, guys, you know what? The guys in the comments, make sure you guys try to put some comments about us, what you guys think we're doing. And, you know, of course, if you like the Discord, please join it. We'd love to have you. It's really bustling community. And, you know, make sure you guys can comment our ratings on the podcast and how we did today. I'm sure Alex and Rohan, they've got competition breathing down their necks. Otherwise, we'll take this segment over as well. So quickly moving on, I thought we'd do something fun. We had something a little bit tactical. I thought that we'd do something fun in terms of trying to describe our favorite Arsenal player in terms of characteristics. So I'm going to quickly share my screen so that everybody can see what I'm talking about. And guys in the comments, make sure you guys get involved. We're going to be debating this. And so we're trying to build our perfect Arsenal footballer here. And so we've got a couple of different traits that we've worked out. So we've got stuff like football IQ, heading or aerial ability, the body or the physicality in duels, right foot, left foot, running power, my favorite, pace or burst. And then we've got some passing ability, and I just called X Factor. I believe there's only one man for X Factor as far as Arsenal players go, but we'll try to really build off that. So we'll start with footballing IQ. We have been blessed with some serious brains at Arsenal Football Club. So guys in the comments, what we'll do is we'll try to maybe separate this a little bit into era as well as like the Emirates era as well, just to kind of get some ideas. So quickly, first person that comes to your mind, Forder, for football IQ in the Emirates era, what are you going with?
Emirates era, Odegaard. I'm thinking like current squad for me. He's almost the mouthpiece of Arteta. We've seen the upturn in form, and I don't think that's anything but pure correlation to Odegaard's return. Unbelievable football IQ, can make the right pass, make the right decision, understands pressing, understands how to, you know, organize a team. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you know, look, he's a shout. I just think I got to put Santi for me. I haven't I haven't seen somebody that's been, that able to take kind of corners off both feet was the technical part, but just the ability to drop back. Very few people start off as number 10s to transition into more of a deep lying playmaker role.
Mhm.
Um, and one person that maybe we don't want to talk about, I think Fabregas has a shout, mate. What he did for us, it, at that age, it's kind of undeniable. I mean,
Mhm.
so I'd like to put him in, and I know that can be a touchy subject for people. Um, but so maybe you guys in the chat could also give us your ideas as well. I'm seeing a lot of Martin Odegaard for currently. I see a Fabregas, Jorginho. What do you make of Jorginho as a shout potentially?
Well, so he was my second shout. What I've done, George, I've kind of made a best player from all eras for me. And then I've
Mhm.
done it from the current squad. I haven't really gone Emirates. So Jorginho was, my second choice for the current squad. I think
Okay,
he'd be a perfect person to go into management. I could
I
imagine
agree.
him
No, I agree. I think Jorginho is definitely a future manager. I think from a current Arsenal squad, you're not going to get better than Martin Odegaard in the current 11.
Mm.
So I think from that sense, we could maybe we'll bold because I want or italicize the current member, and maybe if that member is also your favorite Arsenal footballer as well, that can continue. Um, do we want to go past eras a little bit just to make this a little bit fun? It doesn't have to just be Emirates era, and I think there's one man that this applies to.
I've got Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah, mate, that's the one. That's the one.
I can remember the first match I ever went to was against Wimbledon at Highbury.
Yeah,
It was Dennis Bergkamp up front with Nicholas Nauka, and it just
mate.
glided across the pitch, never made the wrong decision, just made football look so simple. Just unbelievable player.
Oh, mate, you know what? I personally, I hate to be like ageist. There is nobody that this describes better than
Mm,
Dennis Bergkamp, in my opinion. You're talking about a footballer that was just he was total football. That's what he was.
yeah,
And his spatial awareness, his most famous goal against Newcastle in terms of the innovation. I think when you're talking about a player and recognition on the pitch, and I think people, when they talk about who was the best player that they played with of that era and the amount of people that cite Dennis Bergkamp, it's special. I think for me, Dennis Bergkamp has got to be, everybody's idea of a perfect footballing IQ. Amongst the technique was brilliant, but it was just, yeah, he was playing the pace to his own tune, wasn't he? Like the game was flowing through him, but he played the game to a different tempo.
if
Um,
only he would get on a plane. If
if
only. Just that was the
I,
only downfall with him.
it really
Just
was.
unbelievable.
It really was. Okay, so moving on into heading and I guess aerial ability. I mean, I'll put up Gabrielle right now. Potentially one of the best aerial abilities that we've seen from center backs. Period.
Yeah,
Giroud,
unbelievable.
maybe an underrated aerial. I thought he had brilliant aerial ability to take it down. Um, Oddly, this might be a little bit of a weird shout, kind of a hipster choice, but I thought Bentner had very good aerial ability.
Oh,
It
you're
didn't
thinking
have
of
much
United now,
else.
aren't you?
Yeah, I don't
That's
I don't know if he quite
that
deserves.
inbuilt thing there, George.
Oh, mate, you have to. But yeah, for yourself, like, is there anybody that deserves a shout, kind of in this era of it? You've got Big Gabby, you got Giroud. Is there anybody else that strikes your mind? I'm seeing Koscielny in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Havertz just simply from us playing over the press.
Okay.
From the current squad, I went. Well, I mean, he's not like a pure aerial threat, but in terms of the aerial ability of winning that first ball or winning a second ball, I felt like he's someone that deserves like an honourable mention. In terms of all eras, I looked at Sol Campbell. I just can remember any time We needed to
Yeah.
be in a low press. Even in big games, he would come up. I can remember him scoring a couple of goals for England, the Champions League final. He's someone that maybe kind of goes under the radar sometimes, but Sol Campbell was fantastic aerial ability.
Yeah, he was. And you know what? I think people mistake because he was such a dominant player in the channels and just physicality wise that I don't think they give him the dues that he was owed for that. He had brilliant aerial ability. I mean, okay, I don't know about you. I'm comfortable making Gabriel our current best
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
in terms of that. Overall, this is tough. I'm willing to give it to you. I've given some options here. I'm even willing to put Gabriel. I don't know if I've seen somebody that's as dominant as he is, or
No,
as
I would
great as
agree.
all of these. It's between him and Giroud for me that I'm really debating. But I don't know. What about you?
No, I think it has to be Gabriel.
Yeah.
I do wonder. I wonder what kind of their stats look like for Arsenal and headed goals. I bet it's not too far apart now. Although Giroud played in a position where he would be getting on the end of open play crosses. So I think that just says it all. I think it has to be Gabriel.
No, for sure. Okay. Body and physicality. So we're talking like frame, aren't we? I mean, okay, Gabriel has a shout again.
Yep.
I think William Saliba deserves a shout.
That's who I've got from the current squad.
Yeah, in terms of his just ability to use it, his coordination, it's really key. I mean, Declan Rice deserves a shout in terms of
I made
physicality
myself
and duels.
laugh earlier because current squad, I thought Thomas Partey. However, I started laughing because I thought his body constantly breaks down, so I can't have Thomas Partey. But if he
Right.
could stay fit, but and then this is the man.
It's the man.
That
I mean,
Patrick Vieira. Just
we could maybe shout Gilberto Silva.
Petit, maybe.
Petit's got a shout. He was very physical as well. I mean, we've got actually quite a few in this category, to be honest with you. I mean, look, could be he was injured, but you really can't. Diaby, I thought could have been something really special, but I mean, you can't really do that with the injuries that he did sustain. I mean, does Coquelin or Alex Song deserve a shout in terms of taking us through? What do you think?
Possibly.
I'll put Granit Xhaka. I like that in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, constant running, always durable. Is someone like a Tony Adams? Is that someone in terms of? I mean, I can always remember Alan Shearer saying he was the hardest defender he ever played against.
Right.
And bear in mind, this is the person that's the only player to ever captain a title-winning team in 3 decades.
Yeah.
Football did start before the Premier League, everyone. Just everyone realizes that. But he did it through everything. He came back from alcoholism, from all sorts of, and never ever dropped. His performances were unbelievable. He is one of the greatest centre backs to ever play the game, let alone at Arsenal. I think he's so underrated.
Mate, we have
underrated.
so many here that we could do. I mean, I think Kolo Touré deserves a shout as well, if I'm really being honest with you. That's maybe what he got his trial based off of. Look, it's difficult. Okay, we got to make a choice. In the current 11, I'm between Saliba and Declan Rice. Potentially even Granit Xhaka. I don't know. There's so many. You know what? Bukayo Saka. I haven't seen that before either. Saka's ability to kind of roll contact is just unique. I'm willing to go for you because I feel the actual era portion might be easier here. But we have a lot of people currently that could fill this physicality portion. I think Vieira, is it tough to look beyond that? Is that being too biased?
I can't see beyond Vieira.
Yeah.
His ability to win aerially, to kind of, he would just kind of, he had those go-go gadget legs, he would just extend and win the ball. He could Do you remember there were the images of Sesko with his foot kind of 9 foot in the air or however high it was?
Yeah.
Vieira had that. He was just I think physically an unbelievable player.
Okay. In the current one, which I think ironically is difficult for me, I'm between Saka and Saliba. You can even argue Gabriel and Rice. Like, honestly, this is a serious list.
I have Saka somewhere else for currently, so I'm going to go with Saliba.
I'm okay with that. Guys in the comments, you let us know. I think you're not going to go wrong. I think I'm leaning towards Saliba as well. I just haven't seen that control of the body as much. Does it beat Vieira? I don't know. Personally, that's some serious Arsenal royalty. It's been marred with like some serious achievements. I'm comfortable with this. How about you?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it.
All right. Right foot.
Oh, someone's put Mertesacker for head and aerial. That's not a bad shout. There's someone that's
challenge.
Worth a mention.
It's worth a mention. I don't think he beats Gabriel, but I think they're right. It deserves to be in the list, no doubt. That's a good shout, actually. Very good shout. Okay, right foot, mate. There's a couple here. I mean, starting from old, I don't know how old you want to go back, but I think Robert Pires was very underrated in well, not even underrated. I mean, everybody knows how good Pires was, don't they? It's more a case of, he was so tricky, wasn't he? And he had that moment where the PFA player kind of the year season, that was some really special stuff. I think moving on, I've got Henry elsewhere, but I feel like you can't not talk about him.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you because there's one section that wasn't pre-planned. So no, I am with you. But yeah, Henry is.
Can I also do another shock one? People may not like it because he was here for so little, but Nicholas Anelka, mate. I have him potentially in the later category. Well. But I just think, mate, the skill that he showed when he came and dropped deep was incredible. He was the prototype of that kind of complete nine at that time, wasn't he? Maybe I mean Cazorla could deserve a shout even here. If you were, or even Cesc, maybe Cesc is probably a better idea. But any other shouts?
Ian Wright as well. Ian Wright. His ability to just kind of carve a go out of nothing. Some of the chips that he had, he would always test the goalkeeper from any kind of angle, any distance. He was someone that's again really underrated in terms of rival fans. I think we he's beloved within Arsenal, but I think sometimes people don't realize how good he was.
Right. We keep going back to the old. Okay, give me some current members in the squad that you believe.
I have Declan Rice for pure just delivery. Just, I cannot believe that the England setup let Harry Kane take corners when we have both Rice and Saka. But yeah, Declan Rice.
Sanchez, does he deserve a shout?
Yeah, he has to be. I think he's up there for one of the best of the Emirates era. Yeah.
And God, who else could we say? In terms of current, I mean, look, Saliba or Urian Timber. Do they deserve a shout? Maybe Urian Timber in terms of his flexibility. I'm happy putting Saliba up there as well. Yeah, you guys in the comments, let us know if we're missing any. I'm seeing a couple shouts for Kanu or Reyes as well.
Ooh.
I'm happy to put Kanu. I thought that was a really good shout. Maybe Reyes. We're both building a list now. Okay. Look, we've got.
Was Reyes right-footed? I feel like he was left-footed, wasn't he?
I thought he was left-footed as well. To be honest, I have him in the left foot.
I feel like Reyes
potential. Yeah. I would have him a little bit more left foot, but I like the shout. Maybe Merson as well. People are saying.
Yeah, he's someone that could go in that football IQ. If
Yeah.
anyone missed that era, he is a player that you should definitely watch. I feel as a pundit, maybe that's kind of been detrimental to his playing career and the, I don't want to say the mystique around it, but the it kind of has altered history for him. I feel he was such a good player, one of the greatest number 10s we've had at this club. Unbelievable
Does
player.
Partey deserve a shout? Just on his
Yeah,
whole,
progressive passing and
yeah. I'm just thinking, yeah. In general, he's got maybe David Raya, unconventional, but
yeah.
you know, um, my God, this list is getting huge. Okay, at some point we've got to stop. So, this is a difficult one. This is a difficult one. Okay, I've got in terms of the current ability, I think I've got Thomas Partey. In terms of just everything that he's got in his locker. Um, but only because I have Declan later for something that I've not seen. Um,
Oh,
but I don't know. Where are you? Are you Declan for this current?
it's so difficult because Declan Rice from a dead ball situation, I would have him over Party every time. And in terms of shooting ability, I know that this isn't just what it's about. I see Thomas Partey kind of hit into Rose Ed so often.
I know.
However, in terms of open play, passing, progressing, I think it has to be Partey, doesn't it? I think you've swayed me, mate. You
Yeah,
swayed me. I
mate.
think it's going to have to be Partey.
I think it's quite. I think it's he just ekes it. To be honest with you, okay,
Mm.
this is going to be impossible. I'm not. We're going to upset some
Oh,
people. We're going to upset some people. Um, you know what?
comments help us out here.
It's such a boring one, but when you analyze what Henri could do from everywhere, okay, we're going to put him in other areas, but like, can you look past? Because it wasn't just that; it was like the passing range and carrying from. Oh my God, he could go into the carrying in terms. He could go everywhere,
Yeah.
really. So there's the Henri factor. I think Robert Perez, like, he didn't really have much of a weak foot, if you're really
Mhm.
being honest. So really, a lot of his magic came from those different situations, and I don't think he was particularly blessed with pace. I think potentially one of the more technical options on
Mhm.
this list.
He had
Um,
that duck foot kind of running as well, didn't he? Do you remember?
yes,
He was a very awkward looking player.
very.
He's similar to Saka in terms of that like aesthetic bias. I feel that he's someone that maybe if he looked slightly different on the ball, that he would have had a bit more credit these days. Because he is in the running for one of the greatest players in Premier League history. He is an unbelievable player.
Okay.
But
Can I think it becomes boring if we put Henri everywhere. And there is other areas I feel Henri screams for me on this list.
yeah.
So I'd like us to challenge to not be Henri. Um, who are you thinking? I'm gonna let you upset people.
No, thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. I think it has to be. Oh no. Oh, I was gonna say it has to be Perez, but I'm looking at Fabregas and thinking his assists. But then I've got Fabregas somewhere else as well. It's a nightmare. What have you done to me, George?
I
Um,
know.
let's go with Perez. Yeah,
Perez,
Perez.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think people will be too upset with that, but I kind of agree, to be honest with you. I've got Sesson, not to give it away. I've got Sesson passing ability,
Yes.
so
Same. Yeah.
that's yeah, that's okay. Left foot. Oh dear God, the the sheer number of people. I mean, you've got your Ozils, RVP,
Van Persie.
um, you know,
Podolski.
Podolski. Who else do we have here? Um,
Ashley Cole.
oh, mate, he was
I know.
ridiculous.
I apologize for saying his name. However, if we're just looking at what he did at Arsenal,
Oh, mate, it's just no. I'm with you, and Reyes as well is
Yes.
going to be in there. Winterburn's a
Who
shout
else
for
is
some
there?
of the old
Ooh,
old with.
Winterburn.
I don't mind that at all.
Mhm.
Okay, in the current, I mean, the current Arsenal, we've obviously got Bukayo Saka.
Saka.
I think Martin Odegaard as well.
Mhm.
Actually, I have quite a few lefties. Maybe in time, Ethan. But who else? Calafiori,
Cross.
potentially.
I had him. Well, we kind of changed, didn't we? We were talking about carrying, and I thought, oh, I do like Calafiori carrying. I do like his kind of maverick style. He's just
Mm-hmm.
got something about him. But yeah, Calafiori would be in there. Zinchenko possibly.
Yeah, Zinchenko definitely
I
has a
know
shout.
he has his certain things that maybe cloud our view of him sometimes, but in terms of his left foot, it is a
I
very,
think
very good
I
left
think
foot.
you can't look past Odegaard. Not to
No.
make it simple in terms of the range of what he offers. I think Saka is
Mhm.
definitely somebody that's more effective, but his use of his body and his spatial awareness are what make him supremely special. I think in terms of getting out of tight spaces, maybe being our best pocket player, it's got to go to Odegaard in the current squad. But
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here, George.
okay,
We
hit
have
me.
got Odegaard for football IQ.
In terms of making him overall,
Well, I'm just saying if we're making two separate players,
over Dennis
then maybe
Bergkamp.
we can't. No, I'm just saying if we're making like a all-time list and a current list, then we wouldn't be able to have Odegaard in. Which would you have him in?
I don't know if I've got him in the all-time 11. It might be a little bit. Look, we haven't
No,
even talked about.
I don't, but I'm just saying which would you take him for football IQ or his left foot?
I take his footballing IQ because, well, we have people that have footballing IQ. I mean, to be fair, I mean Saka could have gone up here as well.
Yeah, yeah.
To be honest with you, and he probably should have. But I think his left foot in general is the one in the squad that we could do. Arshavin, people are saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable with keeping like. I'm comfortable with making Saka actually football for the range of what he did. Um,
Oh,
okay, what do you actually? I'm going to leave it to you.
what's happening?
I'm going to
Oh,
leave it to you between left foot and
don't
footballing
do that,
IQ.
George. Yeah.
I'm going to put my vote. I think footballing IQ. I put Saka just because of the fact that he's played multiple different positions, um, and I think the range of what Odegaard can do with his left foot in general is a little bit bigger, specifically. But as far as
I'm
IQ goes,
I'm gonna switch
that's
it
where I'm
the
going.
other way around.
Okay,
Maybe we
you
leave it
guys,
up to.
we're
I'm
going
gonna
to leave it
argue
up in the
for
comments. Maybe.
Odegaard for football IQ current
Mm-hmm.
and Saka left foot. Simply, I'm thinking I've seen him use that left foot, so I'm going to switch your argument against you. I've
Okay.
seen him use that left foot from a defensive point of view. I've seen him use it for dead ball situations from corners and crosses, and also for carrying with it. So I'm putting it that way around. But
Okay. Now you've given me the awkward job of finishing this in terms of who the hell do I choose for overall left foot of all time.
I know
Um,
who I've got, but I don't want to say it because I will get lynched for saying who I think.
Mate, it's RVP. I think for me.
It is for me. I hate saying that.
Yeah, I don't know, mate.
I
Like,
hate saying it, but
yeah, yeah. Look, you could. I do think Ozil. People don't want to hear it. He's got that, but I do have him kind of in the passing ability shout.
yes,
But
yeah.
yeah, I just think from anywhere on the pitch. Yeah.
If I had a ball dropping and I wanted someone to hit it with their left foot, it's Van Persie. And that's where the way I'm looking at this with left foot, right foot. So I'm just looking at if it's a really difficult technique, and I saw it time and time again with Van Persie. It was like just inevitable when you saw it come in certain spaces. You just went, You can't stop it. We saw it against us. We saw it against us for Man United. I can remember I was at Old Trafford. The ball came across, and he just finished first time. And
Yeah, I know.
I
Okay,
wish he didn't leave. Ugh.
oh
There
God,
we go.
you know what? We're reaching the point
Don't get me
where
started.
this is getting difficult, mate. This is getting because running power. We've had some serious powerhouses. I think in the current squad, what Rice and Calafiori are probably our best. I mean, you can make an
Yeah.
option for Saliba as well, just what he's able to do, kind of defending a high line. You could make a point for Martinelli as well.
Yep.
And I mean, even Bukayo Saka again. In terms of some of our oldies, let's call them, who do you think we're missing here?
Now, see, I had this category slightly different. So I just had carrying and dribbling ability.
Yeah, we can loop them all together.
So the first person that came into my head was Hleb.
Oh, okay.
I can always remember another player that just could get out of tight spaces, could carry the ball like silly distances. Just an unbelievable player. In terms of if I'm saying pure pace, running power, Overmars for me, and Nicholas Anelka are two players that
was
with the
one.
ball are
Yeah.
just.
Oh God.
I would love to see a player like that in our team now.
People don't realize how explosive Anelka was, and prime Anelka was on par with Theo for me in terms of pace. And okay,
a more intelligent running.
Yes,
that was the other thing with Nicholas Anelka.
Oh man,
I think if he didn't move at the times that he did, he could have gone on to Thierry Henry levels.
Look, you know what it is?
He was just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you know what it is? Okay. I think Declan Rice undoubtedly in the squad. There's no one that touches him for me from a running power perspective. And I think it's got to be Anelka for me, mate. In terms of just mate, this is so hard because I think Declan has a shout for overall as well. Like in terms of carrying from how many people can you trust to carry from your box to the other box? That describes Declan.
It's a different type of carrying, isn't it? It
is.
Do we split this up? Do we
I'm okay with doing it.
Running power, I don't know. Just pure carrying and then the pace section.
How about some guys in the comments? You guys help us out here. Do you guys want to see this split up, or is it one? Like technically, the nerd in me wants to make it different, but because I think they're very different. But are you guys okay if we do? Maybe like a 5-yard burst. I hate to be that annoying person. Bursts is one thing.
Do you know what? That's made me think of Alexis.
Yeah.
Sanchez, that initial burst.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? You change the wording of it slightly and different players crop up.
Yeah. So for example, running power, I would characterize a little bit different, as that kind of Declan Rice thing. Yeah. So here we can copy some things here. And what we'll do is we'll split this up a little bit, because then I think what you're looking at here is maybe not Hleb, but you're looking at Walcott, for example. You're on Rees. I don't know about Vieira in the first 5-yard burst, or even Saka. In those longer distances is where I would categorize some of them. Even Saliba, I'm not too sure. I don't think Declan gets in the 5-yard burst. I think I would have it more towards Martinelli, personally, in terms of the current squad. Urian Timber is a shout, by the way, off that jump. I think he's really quick. I think that's a shout for sure. And then, I don't know. What are you thinking from a 5-yard burst category?
It's the last two. It has to be Anelka or Overmars. I know Bellerin was very quick. Same with Walcott, but it's the intelligence behind the run. There's a difference between just being a sprinter and being
Yeah.
able to sprint with the ball or sprint off the ball to make those runs behind. I think it's the intelligence behind it. So it has to be an
Oh,
Elka over
mate,
Mars.
for burst, it's got to be Anelka for me. Like
Yeah.
that
Yep.
off the jump, boom, you're gone. I've never seen. I don't know, man. I've not seen that. I've really not seen that. I hate to be like, I hate to be ageist, but I think even beyond the intelligence, I don't think I've seen people. You guys ever hear Rio Ferdinand talk about Nicholas Nelka? We're talking about one of the best running center backs of all time. People talk about how much they're scared of Henry. I don't think people realize how scared Nicholas Anelka was, or how scary rather Nicholas Anelka was in general for that. And I think currently Martinelli, he's got to win. I think he's clear in that regard, don't you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do you know what? There's someone that I was looking at the kind of top speeds and stuff. Someone that really surprised me with their speed is Kieran Tierney. I didn't realize that
Oh, that's
prior
a
to like his
shout.
big injury, he was one of the fastest at the club, which I
I'm just
didn't
thinking.
realize. I think maybe it goes unnoticed, but that's someone in technically still in the current setup. But
Yeah,
that's someone. Oh,
Aubameyang,
Aubameyang.
does he deserve, like, I still don't think he
Yep.
beats any of
No,
these
no.
players, but okay. I'm kind of happy. I'm happy with this.
I'm more than happy with that.
Okay, running power, this is going to be impossible. Look, genuinely, I think Henri could. I've not seen somebody. He has the messy thing, carrying from one box to the next. But so does
We've
Declan
seen it
Rice.
against Tottenham, Liverpool. That yeah. Declan Rice, Calafiori. I think we have to take Martinelli out of there.
I'm okay with that.
Again, so it'll probably let's take an Elka and Overmars out of that running power section. Diaby is someone that
Diaby.
if we're kind of taking away the injuries and things in terms of pure running power, he is a player that I love to see on the ball.
Okay, I'm
We could
gonna
have seen more
make,
of him.
only in the interest of time, it's gonna be unpopular. I think he could even all-time it. Purely because he's got the physicality and the challenge. He's got that carrying ability. The only thing, oh, mate, I'm debating between him and Henri. I need help. I need help from the chat because there's genuinely a case. There's genuinely
We know
case for Henri.
where Henri's going.
Yeah, we
Let's
know
be
where
honest.
he's
We
going.
know where he's going. So let's go Rice.
Yeah, like
I'm happy with that.
okay, and I think honestly, can we get it out of the way? There's people. Forget it. There are people. There's no one that's Mr. Arsenal like this. The best Premier League player of all time.
Without
I
doubt
think,
as well. I
yeah,
think the only people who argue it either didn't witness Henri in his
yeah,
pomp or have an agenda. I don't think it's not a debate. Like the amount of goals, the amount of player of the year awards, the assist record, the ability to turn up in big games, and the fact that he could do you remember the goal against Barthez where he turned and flicked the ball, some of the hat tricks he scored, going to Inter Milan, going to the Bernabeu, like he just oozed this whole thing about aura. That's Henri. That
yeah.
is Henri.
No, beautiful, beautiful way to end it. I think there's other X factor. I just don't want to entertain it.
Yeah, no. He's the reason that like I wore vapors. He's the reason people put their socks over the knees.
Yeah,
Like he
was
made
different.
wearing gloves in England acceptable.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Okay. Passing ability. We've got to last category. Okay, people in the comments. This is going to be a tough one. You know who might deserve an awkward shout? I thought Alex Song had very underrated passing ability, especially between the lines. I thought he had a phenomenal way to spot people, and maybe not the biggest of shouts down there, but he definitely deserved something for me. Could we look at? I mean, we didn't talk about it, but maybe Jack Wilshere. deserves maybe at least the left foot up here. I know we didn't talk about it.
Someone I've just thought of IQ as well, David O'Leary. You know, just
very good
for
shout.
his size, the ability to kind of play in different generations under different managers. Yeah.
So, okay, guys.
Passing ability.
Okay, Granit Xhaka. I think that's not a bad shout. I'm okay with that. Actually, maybe I don't know. Like the currently, I mean, he doesn't play for us, right? I'm kind of okay with Granit Xhaka in terms of passing range. There really wasn't very many in the current. Like, I mean, Odegaard's there, Saliba's there. I think David Raya I've put, who does phenomenally for a keeper. But I mean, in terms of
pure passing ability,
pure passing ability. Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you rank like the Ozils as all time or current? I think all time I want to keep within.
Question.
Like, because he's in that in between era, isn't he?
Yeah.
But okay, I know he's not everybody's favorite, but I don't think I've seen a better playmaker than Mesut Ozil in the modern game.
I think we have to look at this subjectively. So, are we saying through the eye of a needle pass, or are we saying everything, in terms of all facets?
All facets. Passing? I'm talking
because
through the eye of a needle. I'm talking range, and I'm talking again seeing things that other players don't. I mean, if I'm being fair, I think Ozil and Cesc are the debate.
Yeah,
here,
and I think it has to be for me.
It might be Cesc because of what they did for us. Is how I could maybe accept this.
I would also argue with Cesc that if you look at Premier League history, I could get don't clip this up, anyone. Okay. Luckily, I'm saying it. I'm usually the guy that's clipping these up, so I'm going to say it. You could argue he is the best all-round passer in Premier League history in terms of being able, when he came to Chelsea and he played in that deeper role, he was able to spread the ball, long range passing, short range passing, like controlling tempo. I think, did he equal the assist record with Henry, or like he was one off at one point?
The funny thing is, Henry tops that category as well on assists.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad.
Yeah.
But for me, if I couldn't trust Ozil to play in different spaces. I think he was perfectly built for the role that he played. And I think that's the difference between him and Cesc. I think Cesc could have played in so many different positions. We saw him as a false nine and be able to facilitate all these other players. I think it has to be Fabregas.
I just have to say, I think Mesut Ozil for me is the best playmaker of his generation. And I don't know if we saw it at Arsenal, but if we're talking Werder Bremen, Ozil going to Madrid, I think people don't understand the running power that was with that boy. And like, it was another level in terms of the recognition. I don't think we saw quite that. There was flashes in an Arsenal shirt. We never saw the early Madrid, Werder Bremen, Ozil. And
I always remember, do you remember Ronaldo saying like, what are we doing? Like he didn't want him to be sold because he could just saw the pitch. He saw everything. He's one of those players that he would just make a pass that no one else would notice. It doesn't matter if you're up in the heavens watching it bird's eye view. He saw it and no one else would. So I would say he's definitely one of those.
So I kind of made Xhaka the present in the past. I don't know if you had any other ideas.
The only other one would be maybe Odegaard. Oh God. But I'm happy with Xhaka.
Okay, so you know what, guys? I'll quickly go through this. In terms of footballing IQ, we've got Martin Odegaard in the current 11. Then we've got Bergkamp overall, including the current ones, who's one out. I think in aerial ability, we've got Gabriel winning both current and overall aerial ability. You guys let us know kind of in the comments. One of the very few in the current ones to really make the list. Physicality. I think we've chosen Saliba for his general control of that, but then Vieira, there's not much more I can look past on him for overall. And then right foot, we went with Robert Pires as well as Thomas Partey in the current 11. And then left foot, we went with Robin van Persie overall, and then Bukayo Saka. As far as a 5-yard burst, we've got Martinelli, and then Nicholas Anelka has 1 out overall. And then from a running power perspective, we've got Declan Rice, and I don't know if we ended up choosing a current one. I kind of feel like Saka should be, but I don't want to make that.
Well, Rice is our current, isn't he? He's both.
Oh, yes, he is both. Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Rice is the one that's 1 out for both there, too. And then passing ability, we've got Cesc, Granit Xhaka, and there's only one X factor. It's Henry. I guess technically we can put Bukayo Saka. He's the only current one that I think fits the so-called X factor. But, mate, in general, that's not a bad player. You got Bergkamp's football IQ, heading ability of Gabriel, the body of Vieira, right foot of Perez, left foot RVP, Anelka's burst, running power of Declan Rice, passing ability of Cesc, and an X factor of Henry. That's a pretty solid player, isn't it?
That would be. Do you know what, George? We should be really, really upset with ourselves right now because Andre has just put something in the chat. And I can't believe we've just.
Well, does managerial.
Our current manager.
Oh, God. If it's at that point, we've also got Arsene Wenger as well. Who manages that player? It's got to be Arsene, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So guys, that is kind of. Let us know in the comments if you guys disagree with any of the traits. We'd love to see that. In general, mate, I think we should maybe just end on some questions. I believe they always do some question stuff. So guys in the comments, make sure you guys start throwing in your questions. We'll try to get through a couple if we can before we sign off. And then I think after that, mate, we might be reaching that point. Sorry again for the mic scratching, but yeah, anybody who's left, make sure you guys throw in some questions. We'll try to get through some as much as we can. I did hear a lot of people talk about strikers and like Alexander Isak and all that January of it all. I'll give you a question just to start off with, and then I'll star some ones for later as people put in the chat. Sorry, Strife 777. We did talk about set pieces a little bit earlier in the pod. But okay, I'm going to give you a budget of 60 million pounds in
60.
January. 60. I think that's fair. I actually think that's reasonable. It's what we spent not last year, but the year before. Okay. Who are you getting? You're factoring in some realism here. Who is the best use of your 60 million pounds?
Oh, I want more, George. Give me
more.
more.
I know. But also keep in mind, right? Because I think people talk about like, okay, when you talk about your Isaks and your Casados, which big profile moves have you seen that haven't been orchestrated the summer before?
Yeah. And that's how we've worked in the past. You know, our biggest signings have been worked in the summer. The Rice deal, the Kai Havertz deal. And we kind of move in silence with most of these as well. So I don't think it would be someone that we're seeing in the media anyway. For me, I'm looking at ideally a left winger. Maybe we go and is it a possibility that we meet the release clause for a Nico Williams? Maybe. I think he would be an interesting buy. He could play on both wings. He's played over 90 games now for both flanks. Sesko could be another player, but right now I don't know if Sesko is a profile that we need in January, if that makes any sense. I think he might be someone that in the summer that we could bring in and then we start to bleed into the team. But how much would Tyler Dibbling be with? Well,
that's how
much, could you go in and say, right, here's 60 million and just so Flipdoc knows as well, I think Nico's release clause is 45 million currently. But,
yeah, I don't know how it works, but I mean, you do have to convince the player to leave mid-season with Bilbao, essentially.
And I presume there's an agreement with Barcelona, but it'd be worth investigating.
Do you know who else I'll throw as a shout if you're looking at left wing? Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth. I love him. I love him. I think that's definitely somebody I want to do a scouted on for somebody in the future.
Yes.
For everybody to have a
do
look
it,
at,
George.
because I just think he's a top player, and I think one of the best attackers outside the top six. Another player that I'll do is Josh Achimpong from Chelsea, who's been frozen out of the team. Again, that's another player that's got 18 months left on his contract, and I think he's burnt his bridge with Chelsea. And I just don't know what's going to happen with Ben White post-surgery, as well as Tomiyasu you can't rely on. And I'm looking at what's left for the rest of the season. I know it can be counterintuitive to get another defender, but I look at that position and I worry, because I've got two players that I just don't know through the course of a season, and then relying on Timber post ACL to do all the rest of the games for the next 2 months. That's a worry for me. I'd be looking at Alvaro Valles on a free, by the way, just to sort as a
that is
agreement.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that's easy to do, and he can continue playing in La Liga for the rest of this season. And then when Neto leaves, boom, you've got a free signing to sort that number two.
Free contract agreement for Messi coming to the end of his contract. So
why not? Why not?
Roll back the years.
Yeah,
come on, Lionel.
Basically, there's options. I don't agree to do nothing, and I will really critique the club personally for doing nothing. I actually would go that far. I think that there's something that we can do. People are giving me non-footballing reasons for Victor Osimhen, who has a £63 million release clause, and I can't.
Can we get the extra 3 million, George? Can we get that extra 3 million?
I hope we can. I hope we can squeeze Stan out for that. But those are options. Those are definitely options. I think I like the Semenyo shout for me personally. I really like.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. That's
he's a top player, and I think he would give us something off both wings, the ball striking, as well as his out of possession work would be really brilliant for me. I think he's a really top presser. So that's somebody that I would definitely have a look at. In terms of just another question, I definitely want to get through some really quickly. Do you want to give me your top six, just as you see it finishing now? That's such a clickbaity thing for somebody to clip, but like, where do you see it go? You know what? I'll do it first so that I don't put you on the rope.
Yeah, go for it then.
I'm going to hang my you-know-what on the table. Arsenal winning the league. Boom. I think that Liverpool comes second. I think this Rodri thing is really an issue for Manchester City. And it's not something I predicted. How could you? That's a serious issue for me. I still think they've got enough to be third. There's nothing considerate about that. I think they're going to buy in January as well. So this could be a case of them finding their feet afterwards. But I think Alisson coming back, I do think Liverpool will, without Rodri, will become a bigger challenger. Then we've got Chelsea finishing fourth for me.
Yep.
And then, oh God, this is going to upset people. I've got Brighton finishing fifth. I just think their squad is incredible, and unless they have some major injury, I have them above United and Spurs. In terms of traditional top six, and I think my top six, ironically, to round it out, I would have Newcastle. If they can keep Isaac fit, that's a serious team that has gone through struggles, that is built to last a run in for me. Built off very strong defensive fundamentals. And then if they can keep fit and they keep Isaac fit, that's enough to charge them to Europe for me. I don't know about getting in the Champions League, but I think Europe. I think that's how I'm seeing it right now. But I think that top six could change. I definitely think Spurs have an opportunity too, for sure. But I just think that they are a team that is built on runs, and I just look at defensive solidity a little bit more as a question for me. How about you?
Mate, it comes and goes. I've got no idea. Call me a flip-flop, but I look at how teams progress over the season and then make my decisions as they go. I mean, I think it'd be crazy. I'd made predictions at the beginning of the season, and then Rodri goes out. I was obviously going to, at the beginning of the season, I said, I think City will just get over the line ahead of us. And I had us second, Liverpool third. I'm looking at it now, right now, prior to the January transfer window, as it stands, I feel that we can get over the line. I do. I just think we are such a good team in all facets, in every phase. We can play in, we have so many faces. We do. And I just
Yeah.
think our squad is good enough. We've had the bad decisions at the beginning of the season. I'm hoping that's kind of that part out. So our luck is in for the rest of the season, maybe. We've played several of the hardest teams away. I think we can get over the line. So for me, I'd agree with you. Arsenal first, Liverpool second, City third now. I think this Rodri thing, I completely agree with you. They just don't look the same. And the way that they reacted in the game against us, the way that Pep has reacted in the media and the way he's talked and, they're showing a fingers. Maybe I'm reading in too much into it, but I think sometimes maybe you need to take something from that. They just don't look like the same team. They don't, it almost looks like the confidence within themselves doesn't look the same. Last year, sometimes people played the name, and I think we could have won that league last year if a couple of more teams played how they should play against Man City instead of resting players or sitting back too much. So I think City third, Chelsea fourth. They're arguably the best squad. Not the best 11, the best kind of total squad in the league. And then fifth and sixth. Oh, I'm just going to ruffle feathers. I'm going to go with Villa fifth, Brighton sixth.
Okay.
I think Villa could go on another run.
Flip Dog's got my table as it's going right now.
Flip Dog.
Yes, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think anything from fourth onward is just its form, and that's within a couple points. So that could change, as we're talking. Literally, I think the Spurs are losing. So, happy days. Happy days indeed. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. Really appreciate it. We're going to tie it there. Really appreciate all you guys in the comments getting involved, all your support. Please let us know how we did in terms of match ratings. Throw it up in the Discord, as well as let us know in the comments down below. I think Alex and Rohan will be back next week for your normal, regular scheduled TCP Live. But Forder, mate, thanks for stepping in. It was brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me. Just so everyone knows, before this, I text George and I said, I'm sweating.
Oh, mate, you don't have to be.
This has felt like a job interview at times, George. It's like stepping up in the big leagues. I've been on the instant reaction and you abandoned me. I come on TCP Live and you abandon me again. I really appreciate it, mate.
What we do is we throw you in the deep end and see if you can swim, and that's how we see. But no, mate, you've done brilliant and always. And you know what, guys? Thank you to all your viewers. We really appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you enjoy the content, make sure you guys drop down below to the Patreon link. Give that a follow. And I think we've got a lot of stuff coming up. I think ultimately we've got, a youth pod coming out tomorrow. So that's brilliant. Make sure you guys look out for that. And of course, we've got our IRs and a big match against Fulham to look forward to. And I believe I'm going to be nice. I don't want to do this, but it's been a while. So I will give some of the people what they want.
You don't like to touch balls? So I love it. So yeah, come. You don't like to touch balls? You don't like to touch balls? Touch balls? Touch balls? You don't like to 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 touch balls? So I love it. 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 The Korean guy and so I love it. 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 You don't like to touch balls?